Hey guys, PokeTrips here, and today I'll be going over the Week 7 transactions. So let's go ahead and get started with all of the pickups and drops. And the first pickup we have is myself. I drop Ferrothorn and pick up Crocodile. I felt like Ferrothorn, I didn't really need him that much, because I didn't. I already have two tanks in Araquanid and Gastrodon, and in my opinion, I would much rather have Araquanid and Gastrodon than Ferrothorn, but that's just my playstyle. I can see why people would prefer Ferrothorn. But I picked up Crocodile because everybody and their mother in this league has a ground type weakness, and Crocodile can exploit that bad. Now he does have the dark type, which doesn't do him any favors. It gives him a lot more weaknesses, and it basically makes me have to put a choice scarf on him in order for him to be viable in this league. But I'm kind of fine with that. Moving on, we have instantly, as soon as I dropped Ferrothorn, that didn't last long, because Karthik dropped Medicham, and because he had an open slot, he picked up Dugtrio and Ferrothorn. This is really interesting to me because I don't know why he picked up Dugtrio. Looking at his team, I don't see any Sand Rush / Sand Force users, like anybody that can set a Sandstorm or anything. But we'll see what Karthik can do with this. If he still had Tyranitar, then this would be actually a pretty good team. He could do Sand Rush, Dugtrio, Sand Force, Dugtrio, something. Dugtrio would be a complete force. And after Karthik lost because of stall, he decided to pick up another stall, which I don't know if I agree with. Ferrothorn's not bad, but I don't know if Karthik should have dropped Skarmory for Ferrothorn. Like, because he dropped Skarmory the other week. I don't know. Skarmory, to me, seems better than Ferrothorn in this format. Anyway, moving on, we have the Socks dropping Sock, actually, and Chandelure, and picking up Gallade. So, I don't know if this is actually a good transaction. I'm sorry, I was reading the message. I don't know if this is a good transaction. I would have much rather kept Chandelure than Gallade, in my opinion, because I think Zach already has Zach does already have a fighting type in Breloom, so I don't know why he picked up Gallade. Chandelure would have been much more versatile and much more compatible with Zach's team, so I don't know. I don't agree with this transaction. Next up, we have the Solars dropping Magmortar, Miss Maggie's, and Celesteela, and picking up Entei and Porygon 2, which I love the Dream World artwork for, by the way. Now, I've criticized Matt so much in this league. So much. All of his transactions, all of his pickups. I think this is finally the one where I can say, good job, Matt. I agree with this pickup. I actually do. Good job, Matt. I agree with this pickup. I agree with you dropping Miss Magus and Magmortar. You should have never picked them up in the first place, let's just be honest. And at first when you dropped Celesteela, I was like, oh, well, why? But then I saw that he picked up Entei to replace that fire type in Magmortar, and then he picked up Porygon 2 so he could have a tank. So that is really cool in my opinion. I don't know if Entei is the legendary that he should have picked up, but it's a good fire type nonetheless. Not many good fire types were left. So good job, Matt. Props to you. That's actually not a bad transaction. I like it. Next up we have the Arizona Houndooms dropping Buzzwole, which we will get to later. It was a trade, and I will tell you guys about that in a second, but I like to do all the pickups first. The Arizona Houndoom's dropping Buzzwole and picking up Pheromosa. This is pretty much a no-brainer in my opinion. Pheromosa is a lot better competitively. Anyway, moving on, we have the first, I thought this was trade, my bad. We have the Indiana Bruisers dropping Carbink and Starmie and picking up Talonflame and instantly picking up Medicham. And the Meta Champion was born, that's all I'm going to say. Next up, we have the Phoenix Sunkerns dropping Silvally and picking up Nidoking. I like this transaction. To be completely honest with you guys, he wasn't supposed to have Silvally in the first place because I was a second legendary and I didn't know it was a legendary because it was confusing to me because it evolves from Titanol. But I guess technically it's not an evolution, it's just Titanol losing its mask. Anyway, it's a whole ordeal. Basically, he wasn't supposed to have Silvally in the first place, but now it's all fixed, and I don't think he did anything good with it anyway, so it's alright. So we see him picking up Nidoking, again, exploiting that huge ground type weakness, and I like it. I like it, Joe. So now is when we move on to the trades. The first trade I moved, it was two different trades, but I moved it into one slide, so it's easier. It's the Arizona Houndooms and the Chicago White Sox. The first trade was Toxapex for Salazzle straight up, which was hot garbage on Mike's end, if I'm going to be completely honest. Salazzle, it's a 1-for-1 Pokemon, if a priority move doesn't come out and kill it. And Toxapex is a good tank, very good in this format in my opinion, but nobody's been able to utilize that. And then the next trade was Tapu Lele and Chandelure for Gardevoir and Buzzwole. Mike's just saying, here, have the core to my team, besides Alolan, Ninetales, and Gliscor, and go crazy. Tapu Lele is so freaking good in this format. I just don't think Mike's been able to capitalize on it, if I'm going to be completely honest. Mike's been countering with things like Alolan Ninetales and things like that. He's been doing just fine with those. But Tapu Lele, in my opinion, is busted in this format, and if utilized, it can sweep teams on its own. I don't know, maybe just Mike wasn't prepping properly with Tapu Lele, but I feel like that if you put a Choice Scarf on it, and you have that Psychic terrain, nothing's gonna go faster than you. So if you one-shot anything, if you can one-shot anything, it's busted. Because the Psychic terrain, no more priority moves. No Bullet Punch on Scizor, which Mike does have, but no Bullet Punch Metagross, things like that. Ice Shard, Weavile, nothing. That's not gonna happen. So a Tapu Lele with like Psychic, Dazzling Gleam, and I don't know, Energy Ball, Thunderbolt, a fourth slot, just something, a filler, that should be able to sweep teams. And he traded this for a Gardevoir and basically a Pheromosa, which I think is so bad. And I do say Pheromosa instead of Buzzwole because he did drop the Buzzwole, if you remember. Zach also got Chandelure from this trade, and gosh, Zach just stole Michael's team. Mike's a really good player at this point and at this stage in his Pokemon career, I guess I'll say. But gosh dang, there's got to be a point where you just say, yeah, I shouldn't do this trade, even though I'm more comfortable with this Pokemon. Maybe if I learn how to use Tapu Lele, then I will instantly win a championship, which he could have. His team was so freaking good. And then he gave away 2 huge components of his team, in my opinion. I don't know, I dislike that trade. It's not as bad as Owen's trade from the other week, don't get me wrong. But I have strong feelings about this. Next up, we have the San Antonio Solars and the Indiana Bruisers actually trading 2 superstars straight up. The Solars trade away Garchomp and get... oh, wait, I mixed this up, my bad. The Solars gain Garchomp and the Bruisers gain Blaziken. Now, I don't like this trade per se, but this had to happen for Matt to get another asset to his team, which, I mean, Garchomp isn't better than Blaziken in any way, shape, or form, but this was kind of smart because Matt got something else from somebody else, as long as he didn't have Blaziken. So I don't know, I mean, just this trade alone is not good for Matt. If you have Ice Shard on anything, Garchomp's dead. That's just how it is. That 4 times Ice weakness kills Garchomp and makes it so hard to keep alive in this format. Because Weavile gets Ice Shard, Mamoswine gets Ice Shard. Those are the only Frostlass gets Ice Shard. Frostlass not picked up actually right now, but anything Ice kills Garchomp. I don't know. I don't like this trade. But he did do this in order to get Mawile from Zach. I went ahead and put the Mega picture, because let's be honest, if it's not Mega, it's useless. Which brings me to why I don't like this trade. Real quick, Matt traded the Infernape and the Scolipede in order to get Mawile from Zach, and the only way Zach would do this is if Matt didn't have Blaziken. I hate this trade. I hate this trade, Matt. I know I said earlier in the video, I liked your pickups. I hate this trade. The problem with this trade, Mawile is not bad, do not get me wrong. And if you just look at it on paper, this trade's pretty fair on both sides. Zach gets 2 sweepers, and in my opinion, one of the best Pokemon in this league, one of the top 15, 20 Pokemon in this league in Scolipede, and a top 50 Pokemon in this league, top 50% in Infernape. But, he gave up Mawile, which, actually, I think that's a steal, in my opinion. And the only reason I think this, Mawile is not versatile at all. If you run a Mawile, it's gonna be Mega. There's no questions about it. Because if you don't bring Mega, what are you doing? Why do you have it? It's not useful. And if you're gonna bring Mega Mawile, you're gonna have Swords Dance. That's how it's gonna be. And if you're gonna have Swords Dance, you're gonna have Sucker Punch. That's how it's gonna be. So people are gonna start figuring this out and figuring out ways to counter this very easily. I've already figured out ways to counter this in case you make it to the finals with me, Matt. If I make it to the finals. So I don't like this trade. Mawile is way too predictable. And unless you can surprise me and bring some crazy set to your next match or something, Matt, I'm gonna say it. I don't like this trade. This trade was pretty bad. Anyway, guys, I'm done criticizing Matt for this episode, and that's been it for me, guys. This has been PokeTrips, logging off.